Welcome. I'm Steph, an intuitive hypnotist from Quebec, Canada.
I'm Julie, a past life regression hypnotist and Reiki healer from Wisconsin.
And together, we are the Soulful Mystics.
Through this podcast, we hope to inspire and empower you through your personal and spiritual journey towards self-discovery.
I'm Steph. I'm a Cancer Sun, Leo Rising, Sagittarian Moon. I'm an intuitive empath and hypnotist with a focus on past life regression, dog mom of 3, an auntie of 6, and I'm fascinated by all things metaphysical, astrology, tarot, mediumship, reincarnation. The list is endless. If you want to find out more about me, you can find me on Instagram at soulfulstephanie111 and at soulfulstephanie.com. So we'll add the links in the show notes if you're interested.
Hello, I'm Julie. My big 3 are Gemini Sun, Libra Rising, and Pisces Moon. I am a Reiki 2 practitioner, soul seeker, and hypnotist focusing on Reiki-infused past life regression hypnosis. I'm married to my husband of 18 years, and we have a teenage son. Our fur babies include a feisty cat and a sweet, cuddly chihuahua. Over the last 3.5 years, I have been on my own awakening and healing journey to discover my true self. I, too, am fascinated by all things metaphysical and especially find joy in deep conversations with open-minded people. To find out more about me, please check out my website at soulseekerhypnosis.com or Instagram at soulseekerhypnosis.
So I did really find this interesting. I don't think we spoke about this yet, but I've been on my spiritual awakening journey for 3.5 years as well. And when I read that, I was like, oh, just another thing to add to our list of similarities.
Wow.
And like we're in different parts of our lives. And I just feel like it's really interesting that 3.5 years ago for both of us, we were on this journey.
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, not surprised at all. We would also love to give a personal shout out to Mira Dawson for creating the beautiful music for this podcast. She is extremely gifted. If you feel called to her sound, she's working on composing more tracks. And based on what Julie and I witnessed while working with Mira in the hypnotic arts course, she's definitely worth checking out. Her Instagram is at me.era3077.
All right. We will talk about all things metaphysical, our personal experiences and journeys towards self-discovery, spiritual awakening, healing, past lives, and so much more. We have amazing special guests lined up to bring in different perspectives and expertise. Most importantly, this podcast will be entertaining, weird, soulful, and empowering.
Yes, I'm so excited to interview especially Gina Sear from the Past Lives and the Divine podcast. She's the one who brought us together, or that podcast leading up to it brought us together. But so many other guests with interesting, relatable stories are going to share. So for an example, future topics to get excited about, we're going to do Soul Connections, a synastry reading with Meredith from Earthling Astrology. We're going to talk about New Age healing techniques such as Reiki, hypnosis, acupuncture, microdosing, so much more. Spiritual awakening, the ups and downs, and the reality of how difficult this can be by sharing our personal experiences and tips on how to overcome the struggle. Self-empowerment and women empowerment. We plan to have strong women on this show to help us navigate different perspectives and different ways we've overcome tough situations. And just to make things a little more interesting and more in depth, we will have some men on the show to give their perspective and thoughts, opinions when hearing our stories. And real talk about a wide range of topics that we deal with here on Earth as humans. The correlation between some mental health issues, spirituality, and past lives, which I'm very passionate about considering I spent most of my working life dedicated to social work. The spiritual realm, the physical, the woo, and like Julie said, the weird. Okay, so let's get into why we started this podcast. Long story short, we're going to go more in depth on this topic in the future episodes. The universe brought us together through our common obsession with the past lives and the divine with Gina Sear. We met virtually by taking Gina and Sarah Leverett's training program, the Hypnotic Arts. Shout out to this dynamic duo, as well as Gina Sear, Past Lives and the Divine, Sarah Leverett, Intuitive Empowerment, and the creators of amazing Hypnotic Arts training program. We were partnered up to swap clinical sessions at first and got to know each other really quick. We have so many things in common, Julie. It's unreal.
Amazing.
So it goes from like personality traits to stepmother figures to just the things that we've been through in life.
Mm-hmm.
An experience in practicing hypnosis with each other. Like we've gotten so deep so quick.
So quick.
And I definitely feel like we've lived many other lives together just by these experiences.
Definitely. I recently had a reading with Meredith from Earthling Astrology, who is absolutely amazing, by the way. She's so knowledgeable, and if you don't speak astrology, she'll really break it down into a language that you can understand. She explained that there is a lot going on with my personal relationships. Lots of changes are happening where I'm in a phase of releasing old relationships that no longer serve me, which is allowing new relationships to come in. I'm attracting my tribe, as they would say. And it is so true. I told her about you, Steph, how we instantly were just drawn to each other the first time we saw each other in class, which is kind of weird to say.
Yeah.
Just how we have just about everything in common. And I told her that it's been such an interesting experience. We're so comfortable with one another right away. Every time we talk, it seems like we find more things that we have in common. And she also recommended a soul synastry reading to compare our birth charts, see the roles we play in each other's lives or have played in the past. Any soul contracts, any karma we might have together, things like that.
Yeah, I laugh at the fact that like it is a weird thing to say just because I am such a lone wolf, and like I've had a best friend since I was 11 until now. We work together now, and she's always told me that it's really hard to keep me as a friend because I'm so good on my own, and I don't make new friends easily just because I don't know, I don't feel like I want to put in the effort. And with you, it was just like, yeah, no, I need to be friends with her. Like I feel like such a strong pull into that friendship, and I'm glad you felt the same.
Yeah.
Although I did message you on Instagram, and then like 3 days later you were like, oh, I don't use Instagram very much. So those 3 days were filled with anxiety of like, oh my God, I'm an idiot.
Oh no. If you would have messaged me on Facebook, it would have been totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I should have thought of it, but yeah, it was it was a kind of instant recognition, which I thought was really cool because when I met my partner Max almost 8 years ago now, it was a blind date, and when I first saw him, I was like, I recognize him somewhere. And that is something that we're going to talk about in future episodes as well, of like just recognizing souls in general.
Yeah.
And how if you really pay attention to the recognition and just do it, just send the message, just like ask them what's up or ask them what their name is, it really pays off because I feel like you're one of my closest friends now, and we've never met in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the soul synastry reading with Meredith. So all my readings with Meredith have been spot on, and I have like maybe one or two air signs in my chart, so I'm not very intellectual, and that's just a fact. And the way that she describes things just make it very easy to understand. Like she just gets it.
Yes.
And so basically she describes synastry reading as a comparison of two birth charts. So she puts them on top of each other and explores the purpose of each individual in the other's lives, as well as your soul purpose, which is so cool. So just like Julie said, she also explores the contracts and karmic ties between both people. And we're going to share that recording once we get the reading done on the podcast. So stay tuned if you're interested in that.
So excited to do that.
I know that is probably the thing I'm most excited about right now, because I don't feel comfortable around a lot of people at first. And with you, even though it's virtual, which is almost worse for me, I felt super comfortable. I felt like I can share all of my deepest and darkest secrets. And you had similar ones, and that is really cool to me.
I absolutely agree. Yeah. I'm still blown away, but also it's like, I think I can speak for both of us when I say this, is like you and I both feel that soul connection on such a deep level, which again, that's something so weird for me to say because I've never experienced that before. So yeah, super excited.
It is. It's so cool. And like later down the line in the podcast, you'll probably be able to hear all of our hypnosis sessions that we did together, the clinical sessions, and maybe even the conversations that we've had, like little glimpses of it, just to see what we mean by how we have so much in common.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. What we hope to share with this podcast is self-discovery and a space for lone wolves to feel validation and acceptance. Someone very wise once told me, your story is your gift, and you share your gift by sharing your story. And this divine being, her name is Mary. I met her through Gina Sears' kinship group. So if you haven't heard about that, check out Past Lives in the Divine. In the show notes, you'll see the website, a link for kinship. And with that powerful message, I found another part of my soul purpose. So by sharing our stories with honesty and vulnerability, we hope to empower anyone to work towards living a more fulfilled life, even if it's just inspiration that you need. If you come here and get a little inspired, then we've fulfilled our purpose. Using your gift, sharing your story is super important to living your purpose. If I've learned anything in kinship or hypnotic arts or in my life in general, that's what it is. And so if we can open your mind and your heart to new possibilities and spark a little bit of passion and curiosity, then we've done our job here.
Yes, that's beautiful. You always hear about amazing awakening journeys, unlocking beautiful gifts, but really, while an awakening can be such an incredibly beautiful experience, it can also be confusing. It can be raw, emotional, and difficult. But through this winding journey, once you find your way through the muck, you will find so much healing, so much joy, self acceptance, the list goes on. We want you to know that if you're currently in the midst of this, you're not alone and you are so worth the amazing possibilities that lie ahead.
Yeah, like it's unreal how many times I've Googled in the past 3.5 years spiritual awakening, and it's like, oh, it's super great and peaceful. And it's like, that is baloney.
Yeah.
It's awful a lot of the time, but there are little beautiful aspects that really shine through once you overcome certain parts of it. So we will talk about spiritual awakening in depth and how we've kind of overcome it or are overcoming it, because it is a constant challenge, or it's a constant lesson. I would say it's a lesson because each step of it is a lesson and it's different.
Absolutely.
And by doing that, I hope we can help people move through it with a little bit more ease than I've had, because I didn't really have, kind of what Julie said, like I didn't have a soul tribe until I worked through a lot of those issues. And having that soul tribe, or having somebody, even if it's through a podcast like Gina's podcast, talk to you through your headphones or whatever it is you're listening through, that is what made me feel like I'm not alone in the world dealing with this.
For sure. Yeah, Gina's podcast helped me a lot along the way. It was actually one of the very first podcasts on spirituality or anything metaphysical that I found in the beginning of my journey. So
Do you have any episodes that really stood out to you with the past lives and the divine that got you hooked, or was it right from the beginning?
honestly, it was right from the beginning. But I do have a few that stand out to me. And the first one would be the episode about anatomy of a past life regression session, because it really
Yeah.
helps you to understand what that's all about, what it entails, and then the whole process that you go through to do a regression. And then the other one I think would be her spirit guide episode,
Mhm.
because I just remember this. There's a section in there where she meets her guide and she feels all the love coming from him. And she kind of says to him, like, what are you so happy for? Why are you so excited? And the guide says, because you're here. And I literally get goosebumps every time I hear that.
Halo.
A beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that was a great and like learning his name, Dalo, is like I just wanted that in my life so bad that I did all of her hypnotic journeys just to get to know my spirit guides a lot better. And unfortunately for me, just like we're talking about with the spiritual awakening, it didn't happen that way. I had to really work to get one name of my spirit guides. Even though I had a connection with them, it was really hard to get a name.
I agree. I still struggle with that.
Yeah,
And
it
maybe
is a
it's
constant
not meant
struggle.
to be.
Yeah.
But
And that's what she said to me too, is do you feel that knowing their name would be distracting to you? And it made me think, yeah, it probably would be, because
yeah,
I'm trying so hard that if I just let it go, maybe the name would come to me. And then one name did eventually come to me, and her name was Poppy. And I don't know, like it didn't mean anything to me. So I knew that it was my guide's higher self that was telling me this name. But for you, Julie, you never had a past life regression before we started hypnosis, or did you have one before?
I never had an individual session, but I had done the group hypnotic journeys, and I have done
Yeah.
Gina's recorded regressions as well.
Yeah, so during this podcast, I think we're going to be posting some self-hypnotic journeys as well, because I know that for Julie, it really brought her into a space where she can practice, and for me as well. I
Absolutely.
struggle a little bit more with the self-hypnotic journeys because I do it at night and I always fall asleep.
Ah,
But I think we're still getting a lot from it. It's something that you have to work a little bit harder for if you're going to fall asleep. So you might want to sit up in a chair or do it during the day. For me, I don't know why, but I always did it at night, maybe because I was avoiding those things, because it was mostly about shadow work, and shadow work is tough.
yeah.
And so I would just fall asleep. And I did want to mention, for the spirit guide session, you did my first spirit guide session. And I think the first one we actually did together was a clinical session.
Yes.
And your cat in that episode, in that situation, when I was talking about, I forget what it was that we were discussing, and we might post that recording. Somebody entered the room, and it wasn't a physical being, it was someone spiritual. And I felt it, and I could just see that Julie's cat was like perched up on the table, like looking at her, kind of eyeing her laying down. And I was like, in my head, don't you friggin' do it. And he was there, like scruffing his paws and like ready to pounce. And I just asked, like, Julie, spirit guides, please do not let this cat jump on her during this session, because that would be extremely embarrassing for me as a hypnotist, like trying to practice. And the cat stopped. Do you remember how you felt in that moment? Like, I remember we talked about it a little bit.
I do remember seeing or feeling or knowing, like I think it was kind of all three, that something or someone had walked past me when I was laying on the bed. I don't remember the cat. Obviously, I couldn't see him, but I do remember feeling that. But I have to say, he used to attack me when I'd sit on the bed and meditate. And And I have asked my spirit guides on more than one occasion to please keep me safe from this cat because he is just so sassy, and every single time it has worked.
That I was sure he was going to pounce on you. Like I was sure it was happening. And the worst part of it was like in that exact moment, I was saying, like, I have my script in front of me. It was the first time I ever did this. And I was saying, something wonderful is about to happen. In my mind, I was like, if this cat jumps on her, she's going to be traumatized from hypnosis from this point on. And it's going to be my fault for saying something wonderful is about to happen. And then a cat attacks you.
I don't think I'd be surprised though.
Yeah, no, if you were used to it, then yeah, that makes sense. If
Yeah.
it didn't attack you, if the cat did not attack you, then the question is the spirit guides were there, right? And so anyone who is a little bit skeptical in that moment, when I said in my mind, please do not let this cat pounce on her, and the cat stopped, kind of thinking about it, you can see that he just kind of like walked away. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, no,
Best interest.
yeah. Or one of your guides scared him away.
They escorted him out of the room.
And that's it for today's episode. Until next time, stay curious.